The Alpha 2 Pro, phenomenal boots for the money. Yes, you can get the Elites or the MIJs of the Alpha 2 and have a great boot. But I do want to highlight that the Pros are really, really something special for the price category. Now, I will say I am very late to the ball with this, especially now with the Alpha 3 now coming out. But I did want to mention how good the Pro 2 is before everyone runs out to get to 3, because I feel like it didn't get enough attention. I had made a couple posts about the Alpha Pro 1, and it was a good boot, but very different because of how the upper was just much thicker from the Elite and MIJs. So, like, it was a good boot, but you weren't really missing an experience comparable to the MIJ Alpha 1 or Elites. Now, with this generation, though, the Alpha 2 Pro, it is a very comparable experience with even the MIJs. Now, the reason for that is because they give you one amazing feature. Zero Glide sock liner. They give you the sock liner or the insole with Zero Glide, which is just crazy, especially because you can buy this from Japan, and the amount of money it would take you to ship international probably would be a third of what you could buy a whole pair of boots and insole for. So when I talk about value, you're getting an insole that might cost you $20 to $30 to ship to you. So about like maybe possibly almost a $50 value for an insole. Now, no insole is worth $50 unless it has like a lot of other technology. This is just a very grippy insole where your foot just does not move, which is really good. But again, that is something that was on the MIJs or the Elites. You're not expecting that at the 130, and now with it being discontinued, about $115 price range. That is phenomenal value to get an insole that might cost you $35 to get. Crazy value. Now, a couple other things with the upper. The Alpha Pro 1 just was a much thicker upper, the suede lining, and it just added a bunch of bulk, made it a different boot. With the Alpha 2 Pro, yes, you only get the zero lining on the insole, but you also get it in the heel, just like in the first gen. But then the material they use for the midfoot, while not Zero Glide, is pretty darn comparable of that of the Elite. They have Zero Glide running throughout the liner of the boot, while yes, not Zero Gliding like they have running throughout the boots in the Elite and MIJ. The liner they have gone with is very comparable and even looks similar. Now, it's not as sticky. This is definitely stickier and grips your foot much more tightly. But it does a really good job. Think of it as the same material, just without that little bit of shiny coating that helps grip the boots to your feet. See, that has a bit of shine to it. Just has a little bit of a glossy tint to it. Versus this, which just doesn't really have that. So the liner is not the same, but it works very comparable. How about the upper? Well, the upper, again, is just a smidge different. The shaping is a little bit poorer than the Japan and Elites. But again, because the upper pretty much is the same, it's a little bit stiffer, but it's probably like 80% of the way to the Elites and 75% to the Japan. Now, again, those numbers mean that last 20% is very big. Don't get me wrong. If you are looking at 130, looking at 200 for the Elites, I'd probably still go for the Elites over the Pro. But if you're looking for a boot around $100 and you get this on sale, this is phenomenal value for money. So again, we've gone over the differences. The no Zero Glide for the lining, the shaping's just slightly different, the upper's just a smidge more stiff, But again, same material, same feel and experience as on the MIJs and Elite. And the last big difference for the upper is the tongue. This is a cheaper, more thick tongue than what you'll find on the Elites, which is a nice thin tongue that really will help grip to your foot and just kind of stay there. This doesn't really have anything to help grip it. It's just gonna be a bit of a bigger, thicker floating tongue, which honestly, with the upper of this boot, I kind of liked it a little bit better just for the balance of it, but again, that's kind of a personal preference. The tongue really doesn't get in the way, and it just is very basic, but gets the job done. Last big difference, the sole plate. While yes, the stud configuration is the same, it doesn't have that Carvo insert, and to be honest, even compared to the Elite, it's just much more flexible. Now, again, I would argue that this might actually work better for the boot to have a more flexible insole compared to the Elites in Japan, just with how much structure and grip is on offer with the whole upper. The whole upper is already so responsive that if the midsole and outsole is just a bit more flexible, well, because of that responsive upper, it actually just kind of feels very natural. Again, that is more of a personal preference, but you might see this outsole and go, oh, that's a bit too flimsy. It really is not that big of a downgrade. It sounds worse than it is. Sizing for this is just like the Elite and Made in Japan models. If you like your boots with a little bit more space, go true to size. If you want a tighter fit and don't mind necessarily occasional bruised toenail, you can go a half size down like I did. The Alpha 2 Pro is a boot I can highly recommend, and I'm sorry for not telling you guys sooner, because it is a phenomenal boot for the price point. Think 75 to 80% of what the Elites in Japan are, just without that zero lining throughout the liner of the boot, a thicker tongue, and an outsole that's a bit more flimsy and flexible. But again, for about $130 to $115, if you're in that price range, you are getting a phenomenal boot, because again, you get that zero glide sock liner, and as an overall package, this boot by far punches above its weight. So yeah, the Alpha 2 Pro I can highly recommend.